All right. So, quickly getting started, I would love to introduce myself and then take it up ahead. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So my name is Sharon Mathew. I am from India. I am from a city called Pune. And what's very interesting about my story is I am a computer engineer graduate. And right after graduation, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to make the best use of technology, but not as a software or a hardware engineer or an IT professional, but I will integrate technology with learning. And that was my first step towards the learning and development industry. And from there, my journey started. I am talking about 2019. That's when I decided I'm not going to go mainstream, but I am going to try something different. I am going to be adventurous. So instead of doing a world tour, I decided to do a career adventure. I stepped into the journey of learning and development. I'm an internationally certified behavioral skills trainer, certified from SQAs, the Scottish Qualitative Assessment. And the journey started as a freelancer. 2 years down the line, I set up my own brand called the Upskill Studio. I wanted a little more validation and confidence that yes, I'm capable of doing this. Also, because I come from a background where, while my family, my relatives, my family members, they're all great educated employees at very high positions, but we don't have a business person in the family. And I was the first one to step up. So I wanted to validate my own efforts and my own risk that, okay, let's start it as a brand. And then I set it up as a business. So today it's a properly registered business and entity in India. And it is a learning and development company called the Upskill Studio. It's been 5 years into my journey. And I have worked with multiple corporate and educational setups in India as well as globally. And till date, I've worked with close to 45,000 learners who have got the privilege to interact with and make a shift, however small or big it is, but create that shift in them towards positive learning experiences. So these are some snippets from my workshops that you can see. So I do run virtual as well as offline or face-to-face sessions as well. So in different domains, right from outbound training to behavioral skills, that's the kind of work that I do. So I'm going to just fluctuate a little bit screen share and this so that we can actually look at each other when we talk. So allow me to please share the flow of the day. What I am going to do is share my real-time experiences of as a learning consultant from India, what is working out here, what is something that I've already done and delivered for a client. And at any point, I would love for you to ask me questions or interact with me. There are two options, three options you could do. Because I would be speaking and not be able to see the screen. If you see on your left side, there's a panel for the Q button. You can easily click that. And it has three options. I have a comment, a question, or an idea. So if you would like to contribute to more than what I have added, feel free to do so because we would love to hear what you have got to share. And otherwise, if you would want to ask or share something, please use the chat option or simply unmute and just say an excuse me and I'll stop and I would love to hear what you would also have to share. So let me give a little context about what I am going to share, what is the client story and the background and how I designed a complete learning experience spreading across a couple of months. This is a project which has been approached by a healthcare in India. Now this healthcare, while this company deals with healthcare, they are dealing with general insurance. So they are providing insurances to enterprises. Now, in such a company, the sales team have to be really strong. So they wanted to train their sales team to handle both inbound and outbound calls. So they wanted to train their in-house staff. And it was a new company. So they wanted to do the setup from the ground up. Now, this intervention definitely cannot happen over one day or just a couple of sessions. It has to be spread across a few months. The thing about behavior is that behavior shifts can only happen with time. So time is equally important as an investment, which the organization and the participants should do. So as a learning design experience, when I'm creating these experiences, time as a factor is extremely important to calculate. I should not be piling up session 1, session 2, session 3, because then there's no breather for anyone. But how much do you space the time? What happens in that gap all contributes to a positive learning reinforcement and experience by the participants. So this was the brief that I have got. Now, how do we enable this through a learning design? So I thought I will walk you through the live documents, and there are some parts of the document which I'll not be able to share from a confidential reason perspective. But apart from that, I thought I'll share the initial plans and then walk you through the same. So you would also get an idea if you would want to pitch something similar to your participants or clients. I also do understand that whether you're an instructional designer, whether you're a facilitator, whether you're just part of learning and development industry, what is very important is to understand the client need. Now, please understand client are two types. One is a client is a stakeholder who hires you for their job, but they might not be your participant. And the other client can be the direct participant who's sanctioning with you. So I could be your participant and I'm directly, footing that bill. So there's a one-on-one relationship. But in corporates, what happens is there's generally multiple stakeholders in between, and you don't really interact with the participants before the session happens, unless you insist for it, which I think you should. I always do. So once all my contracting is done, then I insist for a focus group where I request the junior most members and I have a focus group discussion with the new joiners in the setup and with the senior members of the setup to understand what are the challenges that they face. So picking out a sample group from my existing participant group is called a focus group. So I do that to understand what is it actually they need, because a stakeholder will, everyone have their own perspectives, perceptions, and opinions about what should happen. So I try to understand from each other as well, so that the learning experience that gets designed and gets delivered, there is complete relation between each of them. Otherwise, it can create a big misunderstanding and it might not make sense at all. I'm just going to take a pause here and check that whatever I have shared, is there any questions around it? Is everything okay as of now? All right, thank you. So I am going to share my screen again. And here we go. So let me share my entire screen. Okay. So like we said that they were looking to train their sales team. So I call this program the Sales Catalyst program. So first thing when a client approaches is first I get a call to understand what is the requirement, and is the requirement, because translations can be lost between writing, speaking, or passing it to someone. So in India or in any organizations per se, what happens, there is generally the head of a department who would tell his subordinate or his manager that this is what I'm looking for the team to be trained on. Find suitable vendors or identify trainers who can do that. Then the manager has his or own perspective on what needs to happen. So information keeps changing throughout the time. So I'm very insistent that whatever you spoke to me, I would also like to get a written copy of it, so that there is no discrepancy in the future. So, okay, so we started with this program. So I called it the Sales Catalyst program. I'm very particular about the words I use for my program because I've seen the kind of impact it has. So generally, I try to include either adjectives or verbs in the name, because adjectives is description and verbs shows action and progression. So I try to include words which make sense either from the adjective family or the verb family. So Sales Catalyst program. So here I've considered catalyst as an adjective to say that you're the medium through which change can happen. So I like putting meanings to program. So then I walk the client through. So I have a deck which is sort of prepared. There is a template. So these slides, once prepared, I just keep replicating it. So phases in the learning journey. So right now we are at phase one, the explore and discovery. Now, when we move ahead in the journey, I simply shift this push pin and this button here, so that every time the document is updated. So phase one is explore and discovery. This is where all the calls happen, all the understanding happens. We try to define the problem statement, the TNA, the training need, as crystal clear as possible, so that we can then move to the design and curate phase. Design and curate is where the actual session outline and designing starts to happen. And the third is delivery and retain. So delivery is delivering of the session. Once that has happened, retain as in can we upskill, if a group has undergone, can we offer them coaching, mentoring, or do we offer intervention? So once we deliver or we are at the end of delivery, there generally goes out a mail from Upskill Studio where either me or my team member sends out giving upskill options, that how can your team benefit in the long run. So it does not just end with the workshops, but what next can they do as well. This is a flow. Again, organizations and people within the organizations come from different levels. So in India right now, there's a lot of splurge of small, medium businesses and startups. They have no clue about learning and development. They don't know where to start from. They don't know what to ask for. So my documents, I try to keep inclusive, that, somebody, I'm already preparing that if somebody at the organization does not know anything about training and development, they should be looking at my document and be able to figure it out for them to confirm my proposal with the organization as well. So if you see, that's why I've written TNA and discovery, and I have broken it down. So this is a step one. So this is the flow. So, this is where the discovery happens. Then the proposal acceptance, that we define this is what we are going to do. This is the kind of contracting and scope of work that has been decided. Then the design part, where the content and the experience gets designed. I am very high on experience, which means that I'm not just focused on what gets delivered for 8 hours, but I'm very focused on.
Hi, Sharon. I'm sorry, we can't see your screen. We've not been able to see it since we started sharing.
Okay, that's very strange. Let me just share again.
Might be a network issue.
Okay. Please confirm when you get to see my screen again.
Now.
Is it visible now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, so I'll just go a slide back, and this is exactly what about phase one, phase two, phase three. So I can hear my own echo. Is that the case for all of you?
You can hear your voice echoing.
Okay. Okay. If somebody is not on mute, okay, I think it's sorted out now. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly check. Any one of you could just unmute and let me know my voice is audible and my screen is shared.
Your voice is audible and it's shared.
Yes.
All right, thank you for letting me know that. Yes, so this was exactly what I was saying. So from an experience point of view, now I always tell people that in this industry, I am somebody who's born and brought up in learning and development. If I can request everyone to go on mute, that would be really kind. Yeah. All right. So please understand that I am somebody who's learned the ropes of it. I have literally built this whole setup brick by brick with no experience before. Brand new to this setup, brand new to the whole setup of setting up your own thing and taking it up. So I'm somebody who spends that much more time understanding each thing and understanding nooks and crannies, and avoided all kinds of shortcuts as possible. I wanted to make this as sustainable as possible in
Apologies.
the
Somebody needs
run.
to mute
So my
because we can't
document.
hear this. Can everybody that's not, please just mute, or can an admin person just mute whoever's making that noise?
Ah, okay. Let me see if I can figure something out. Okay, I think the noise is died. Perfect. I'm just going to repeat the last sentence that one thing I have realized is now I have worked with MNCs, I have worked with global corporations, I've worked with small startups and solopreneurs. Everyone's understanding about learning, development, and training is very, very different. So within India, globally, none of those demographics matter, but that person's understanding is so varied because of the information he or she would have got. COVID definitely played a positive role because that whole period and phase enabled digital learning to go ahead a lot of steps. But at the same time, with the rate of information increasing, a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding has been developed because of that as well. So whenever you create any documents, any content in any form, whether it's a video proposal, session outline, a post read, pre-read, does not matter. Make sure you keep the language as inclusive and as simple as possible. So high level language and high level content does not mean fancy words, but the kind of thoughts you are able to translate into meaningful sentences and words that make sense to that particular audience who is going to consume your content. So this is my proposal. The first document which I sent to the client, these are three phases which I have identified. The beauty of our industry is that you can have your own definitions, you can have your own headings and categories. So these are the three phases which I've really identified with, and I've been using this document since the last 2 years without having the need to update, because I try to create things which I do not need to change very often. Proposal stage should be the easiest you as a instructional designer, as a freelancer, as a facilitator, as a trainer, coach, or mentor. Because the faster our proposals get made and we send it to the client, the faster closures you can also expect. We don't want to dilly dally over there. So these are the three phases under which I categorize my work. And then I also lay down the steps so that irrespective of, I'm always prepared that my document is not going to be seen by just one person at the client side. My document will be seen by multiple stakeholders. Now just imagine a scenario. I am not there. They're not going to call me for every meeting, nor are they calling me for every conversation. So which means that if I have sent it to person A, that person A is now going to circulate the documents to his or her own managers and peers. So my document has to be self-explanatory, that without me explaining it, people should understand what the next steps are, how should we proceed further. So this is the first document. So here I have listed down step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So the first, the discovery and understanding happens. Then we give the proposal. There are two types of proposals which happen. One is regarding the session. And once that is approved, then your contracting work, agreeing upon the payment terms, costing negotiations, all of that happens. Once all of that is in place, we move towards the designing stage. In designing, we work on the content and the experience. So like I was mentioning before, experience does not mean that one day of workshop, but experience means the connect that you are able to build before your workshop and post the workshop is done as well. So think end to end. Don't just think from today 9 to evening 5, that's all the enough. We are in a profession of transformation. We are in the profession of making a difference to other people's life. Then how can we put a timeline that I'm going to only make a difference from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.? That's not true. It is all about the connections, the rapport building, and the kind of experience that somebody has because of us. That, wow, because of Sharon, I could understand this. Or wow, because of you, something happened. So work on it like positive triggers. And step 4 is delivery. Delivery is the actual execution. So the set date which you agree upon, let's say July 15th is when you're going to deliver the session, and so on and so forth. This again is a generic slide which captures the details of the sessions. So we discussed around 8 to 10 sessions. We spoke about 2 learning sessions a week so that learning efficiency is happening, and at the same time the working professionals who are undergoing the session can apply it real time in their workshops. The duration we were still discussing, either 4 hours or 8 hours. In India we call it either half day or full day of sessions. The delivery we were talking hybrid because I stay in one city and these sessions were happening in another city. So we wanted to try out hybrid, which means some topics can happen online, some topics can happen face to face as well. So that's why we called it hybrid sessions. The learning options, we suggested that because it's a long intervention, we will build a team of 3 to 4 trainers. I also work with a panel of trainers, and we work at an empanelment capacity with each other. So we thought of working with panel trainers so that the participants are able to gain new perspectives from each trainer. I come with my expertise, but the person I also wanted to bring in my team had 15 years of experience in sales. So the kind of knowledge and interaction they would bring on the table is equally valuable and useful as well. And then post session, these are the things that we would share for better retention of learning. So these are the details we share in the first draft. Then of course we pull in an investment slide. I have over the time learned that it's better to talk about investments right up front so that negotiations are that much more faster and clear. If it's a no-no for either parties, then you know that you're not going to waste your time further with this engagement. But I'm not a person personally who likes to pull that conversation till the end and, create a very stretch kind of negotiation. I like negotiating, I like talking, but I don't like to stretch it unnecessarily. So we give a tentative indication of what the cost can be, and we are open to negotiation depending on what the final details get agreed upon. One thing I've also seen with these long journey programs that I design is offer discounts. I have seen the closures happening faster and better. You can bill it the way you want. Now, because I had multiple sessions, I was offering them something 5%. If so many sessions got confirmed, I always make sure I put a minimum value, so that whatever business I do get from this client, it is a viable deal. Yeah, so I'm just going to hold on to this slide for you to, and in case anybody does have any questions, feel free to ask. Also, feel free to borrow these sentences and statements. I figured out with time, maybe this could be a starting point for you to improve your documents, or you want to include or delete something. So feel free to borrow, but make sure you modify it to suit your clientele. Okay, so this is the first document, and this of course is just a contact us slide, and I will move towards this. So the first step, I keep it very simple. I keep it on an Excel sheet because it's a no-brainer. While I love tools and technology, and like I rightly mentioned in the beginning, that I wanted to impact somebody or the world through technology, but not as a software engineer, but through L&D. So I'm somebody who loves using application-based technology, and I can really map technology to learning so that learning happens better, faster, smarter. But I've also realized that just because I'm good at it does not mean the person in front of me will be very hands-on. So that can actually become a barrier. So the first conversation, I keep it as simple as on an Excel sheet. And then I complicate it, but in a good complication way. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run through this. Feel free to read through. So I put categories on top, and under that I like to build. Generally between 4 to 5 categories I do. So this is what I do. This is of course the serial number. What will we do? How will we do it? So if you see, this is a golden circle framework. It has been popularized and introduced by Simon Sinek. I love the golden circle because I think it's very simple and it solves a lot of problems. So I start with what, how, and why, and I continue frame it in a question which is beneficial. So what will we do? How will we do it? And why are we doing it? What is the timeline and any remarks? So first, of course, confirmation of contract, it gets signed off. Why are we doing it? Because we need that for the project to begin. Next is to have the focus group discussion, like I said, either with the business leaders, leadership, stakeholders. We'll do it online again because we were in 2 different cities, so this made more sense, and plus it's cost viable as well. Why are we doing it? So that we can define the competencies and KPIs while we do our research and come back, but we need a sign off from the business for sure. Then we'll gather data from the top 3 to 5 KPIs, and then Upskill Studio, which is my team. One sec, just make this better. Yeah. Then we will create a formal document saying that this is what we have signed up on, this is what we've understood, and why we are doing it, so that we have a foundational agreement to sign off and build further content on it. Then we develop the competency framework. Now, depending on how much the framework is, there are different designs available. Google again is the best source to help. You will find a lot of templates and samples. You can pick one which fits you the best. And to ensure that each KPI is met with a plan of action. Then we get the approval, then we share all the documents, and we are on the same page. So all the timelines accordingly, whatever my team is capable of doing in that. So this is almost like a 1-year-old project. So whatever we are capable of doing at that time, given our bandwidth, we propose the following. Now see, if you notice, the first focus group discussion were with the leaders. So these are the stakeholders who are paying for the project. And these are the people who are going to attend the workshop. So it's important that we do it with both of them. So we did it with 3 to 5 participants, again online, to understand their viewpoint. What is it they would want to learn? Where are they struggling? Where do they need the most support with? Then we create an action plan, which is a training session calendar. Like I mentioned before, this is a long journey spread across almost 6 months, if I'm not wrong. Now, 6 months is a lot of time, especially when you are talking about 1 to 2 sessions a week. So at an average, I had anywhere between 4 to 6 sessions in a month, into 6. So around 24, 25 sessions were getting planned, simultaneously. Plus, we had 3, 4 other trainers also who were involved. So managing everything, we need to have a very strong plan. So we created a training session calendar. So which batch will undergo, which trainer is going to work on which day, what are we going to do on each session. Then we spoke about a pre-assessment so that we can measure where we started from, and a program preparation. So whatever is required. Once all of this is done, we'll need 15 days to get the content ready. Any questions till now before I move forward? I would need another 10 minutes and then we.
So, well done, Sharon. Your session is actually supposed to end in like 5 minutes, and we haven't started asking questions.
Sure. Perfect. Then I'll keep it to 5 minutes, not to worry. So I'll now walk through this. So this, if you all saw, was phase 1 of the pre-work.
Sorry, Sharon. Sorry to cut you. Guys, if you have any question, please start putting in the chat section.
Yes, please. That would be really helpful.
Thank you.
So I will leave this to read. Like now, there's no point explaining this because this was very specific to that organization. So if you saw, we spoke about around 12 sessions. So we did, I think, the first 2 months planning, and then we continued later. So I'm just showing you a part of the document. So this is what we did. We gave them an idea of what the topic is, what it will cover, everything in brief. We've not yet gone ahead with a lot of detailing. And then we also shown them a highlight to the post work. So this is what we'll do. We'll collect feedback after each session. We'll maintain something. Then a post assessment with subjective objective will happen. A dashboard capture. So we were also talking about integrating an LMS out here. So that discussion also happened. And we also spoke about a WhatsApp group support. Like I mentioned in the beginning, when you start and when you continue, the gaps in between also have to be taken care of. You cannot just keep quiet and sort of like let time pass, but rather use it meaningfully. So what we do is we create a WhatsApp group, and then we, from the sessions itself, we keep generating micro content and send them. So we either make it small 30 seconds of video or flashcards or just PNG pictures that we send to them on the WhatsApp group. So learning happens at a continuous level. And this is the document for the proposed investment. So instead of just telling them, hey, I need an X amount of money, I justify how and why I need that X amount of money. So what I've basically done is broken down each level, put a cost to it, and that finally gets added up. So now they are able, now without me explaining, it is justified that why am I requesting for an X amount of money to be attached to this program. So, it allows as much clarity as possible. So all of this, so the pre-work phase is this kind of investment. Then your each session cost is this much. Then the post-work, all of this, and post-work we count in terms of hours. So pre and post we count in terms of hours. Execution, of course, we count with the content designing, delivery charges, logistics, and all of that. And then we put an X amount of, and it all totals up. And these are some remarks for them to consider. After this is confirmed, and I'm just going to stop my screen share now. Okay. So after this is done, the next tool I like to use is Session Lab. You must explore that. It's pretty useful. So Session Lab, we do the detailed research and content formation. And then we use Canva as a tool to build our content. And then we finally deliver it either online or offline. So that is something we do. I've learned from some very experienced trainers and consultants in India. So this is a combination of best practices which I have figured out, and I have also learned, and I thought I will walk you through a live project and explain what exactly happens. So yes, that's it from my side. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please do check, or I'll just open the chat as well on the side.
Yeah, wow, that's been such an amazing session. I mean, guys, I learned a lot from the two things that stuck to me is the fact that you need to always document and ensure that you have everything documented. And then she also mentioned something I've learned. So what I want us to do right now, I've just brought out our learning museum. I mentioned earlier that we're going to be using it to collaborate. So pick out these boxes, the white boxes. You can pick one, right click and duplicate it, and put in there what you have learned today. What is your feedback? What have you learned today? There are 3 steps that I usually take for reflection. What have you learned today, and what does that suggest to you about your process? And then what are you going to do next with what you have learned today? Let's put that in the chat right now. Our time is fast spent, and we're going to end in like 2 minutes. One thing is, if you are, when you were coming into this session, you would have been prompted and asked if you want a recap after. So if you did not do that for this session, make sure that for the next session you do that. Always state that you want a recap. And what this means is that at the end of the meeting, the recording, the recap, everything will be sent to your email. And then even this learning museum, this whiteboard will be available for you to keep putting in your comments. We're going to end right now because we need to prepare for the next session. You are going to get a recap, which will give the opportunity to continue to put in your comment. Please put it right now. And I think there's a question. Someone asked, what competency frameworks do you use? That's for you.
Right. So competency framework in this case, generally when we work with MNCs, they do have it planned out. They'll highlight 5 competencies with level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is basic, level 3 is advanced. So awareness to display, that's the kind of levels we go through. Now, because this was a new setup, we helped them build the competency framework. So we defined, they had their values and mission and everything. Through that, we help them build the competency map and framework for them. So we build the whole competency document for this particular organization. Okay. And I've also shared my LinkedIn link with all of you all on the chat. So please do stay connected. And if you'd have questions, I would love to answer them later on. Thank you so much for understanding. And
thank you so much. I mean, there are questions in here. Somebody put in a comment and said, great session. Another person asked something about if they can have access to the service lab. Thank you for sharing your model for project management of a longer term training intervention. Please, I love all these comments. Let's put them in the let's put them in the on the whiteboard right now. Whatever comments we have.